bat detectors are pretty expensive, right? Like they're high-tech pieces of equipment. If you're looking at like consulting spec things, you're talking thousands of dollars per unit. So bringing down the barrier to entry for someone who wants to detect bats is really important. So the project that I'm working with, I've utilized ultra low cost, they're called detectors. So these are detectors that are built by an engineer who's then had them manufactured. They're on like a PCB board, a weatherproof housing, with the express intention of putting them in the hands of as many people as possible, right? Like just making it accessible, because people want, if you're interested in something, there's a price point at which you become uninterested, right? And bats historically, like since the first detectors were developed, it's always been like a cutting edge technology, and it's always been expensive. Today, we're starting to see a lot of like really low cost detectors come on the market, and New Zealand's benefit as well as having only 2 species that we're likely to detect, and in many places only 1. It also means that we don't need oftentimes the highest spec equipment, although today even the ultra low cost detectors, in terms of a microphone, what you can get for the money is incredible. Like the detectors that we're importing cost wise are like an order of magnitude cheaper than what I use in my consulting role, right? So they're quite affordable. There's a number of different models that you can use if you want to be walking around it actively detecting, or if you want to go and put something out statically, like on a tree in the forest. And the big push that I'm making this year with the National Bat Survey is to allow people to upload data to a platform where we have an automated classifier. Now, this is like I can hear people in Europe saying, classifiers, it's like a dirty word almost, because in Europe, the classifiers are really like they're utilized a lot, right?
So a classifier, can you just clarify
Like an
what that is?
identification tool. So you upload a file of a bat call and it will tell you it's this bat species.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
It's essentially like an automated process if you put out a detector, you will record a lot of noises. We cut them into 5-second recording chunks, and then you analyze those. And that can be done manually, or you can automate the process. I've done it for years manually, and it's exciting for the first month, maybe. It's always exciting to find a bat where you didn't know there was a bat, right? But the amount of data we're collecting these days is massive. Let's again go back to a wind farm example. When you're putting in 100 turbines and you want to do a paired study, so then you'd have 200 detectors, and you might do 6 surveys every year of 3 weeks each. And that's just a mountain of data.
A lot of
Like
data, yeah.
the number of hours that you would require to chew through to just analyze the presence absence. And again, coming back to our lower diversity of species, it makes the problem of use of classifiers much easier. So in Europe, or Sweden even, where I work doing call classification, they have 19 species. A lot of those you can't differentiate easily based on their call. You need specific calls of the species to know it's that species versus another one. So the classifier is useful, but it's not the final solution. For us, we have a much better chance of utilizing classifiers to give us really some pretty solid answers. I always recommend people do QA on their data. Like if you're a consultant doing an impact assessment, you need to look at your own data as well. You need to manually verify. But for a community group where the aim is like, do we have bats in our conservation area? This is a perfect tool where you don't need to be trained. You don't need to spend hours and weeks of sifting through data. The idea of it is like you can provide the initial tool, which is the detector, and then the subsequent tool or the software that people who are not, their core role is not bat surveying and reporting and analyzing, but they can still get all the benefits of that, but it's really at like click of a button. The results typically come back in a few hours. We sort of say it's in 2 days. You just come back on a dashboard and it will have a detection. How many detections did you make? What days were they made? What time of night was it made? What species did you detect? What kind of activity was it based off the call? Like, is the bat likely to be commuting? Is it foraging? Is it social calls? So it's a huge amount of data that you can get without having to go really in the weeds and do, as I've done, like really go deep into acoustics, right? Like I find it really interesting. So I love going down into the weeds and investigating it. But for a lot of people, you just want to have an answer, right? So that's kind of the market that we're tapping into. But that, like, to get people involved where their role is really to put out a device into the environment and upload the data and simply get near instant feedback. It just opens up the door for people who, 1, want to run a project, and 2, want to be involved in a project. And the fact that it's scalable. So that's why I've named it the National Bat Survey, because the idea and the benefit, I think, coming forth with the data processing and data storage capabilities we have now is that you can start to think about the scale of your impact. So rather than just being a local project, it can be national.